Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3. Today I'm gonna talk to you guys. I gotta get this off my chest, bro. I'm just gonna be honest. Yu-Gi-Oh players suck. Okay? And we're gonna talk about this. You know what? I'm just gonna play this replay in the background. Just because it's gonna be some entertainment. So to be honest, this needs to be addressed because a lot of players are struggling with enjoying the game because in my opinion, right, from my perspective, I'm not sure what their reasons are, but I feel that when people aren't winning, they're not having fun, which you should be able to have fun just because you're playing the game, but some people don't have fun unless they win. This is what leads people to playing decks that they hate that aren't even fun, but because winning to them is fun, they'll play a deck that's not fun at all, right? Even though, again, like I said, they don't like the deck and it's not fun to them, they will still play a deck that is not fun at all because winning to them is fun. And that's good enough for them. So, here's something that we need to talk about. For one, Yu-Gi-Oh players do not know how to use their hand traps. 10 times out of 10, the thing that separates a quote-unquote pro player from just your average run-the-mill player is sequencing and deck choices. Now, I think that sequencing matters even more than the deck choices that you make, right? Because you can put all the right cards into your deck. It doesn't matter if you don't use your resources correctly. Why does that matter? Because people will have the right cards and not use them correctly, and they will lose. I'm playing Labyrinth, brother. I just clapped that guy up, but this is the problem. Like, people will draw the right cards, and I've seen players that really do suck. Genuinely, you guys can get your feelings hurt, cry about it later, talk about it in the chat. I'm just being blunt with you, bro. They suck, and they're not using their cards right, but they're getting the perfect opening, and they throw it. They're losing games that they have no business losing because they don't know how to sequence their cards correctly. People don't understand what deductive reasoning is. A pro player understands deductive reasoning. What is deductive reasoning, 3 stacks? It's a checklist. If I activate card A that has an effect that can threaten my opponent to not be able to play, and they did not disrupt it, I can make the concession that they do not have the disruption to stop me, which implies that I can just play without worrying about that specific interaction, right? That's just what makes sense to me. Oh, hold up. He's cooking. This guy really said SP, banish your backjack. That's crazy. Hold on. Hold up. Let me cook. No, I'm playing. Alright, so hold on. Let me pause this so I can collect my thoughts. That was so funny. So, alright. I'm gonna give you an example, right? This is just to make it make sense, right? And more layman's terms. If I normal summon Snake Eye Ash and it resolves, I can make the concession that my opponent does not have Impermanence or Veiler. I don't know if they have Ghost Mourner or not because that's not a special summon monster. But if I resolve my effect of Snake Eye Ash to special summon from the deck and it resolves, or I activate Bonfire and it resolves, I can make the concession that my opponent no longer has an Ash Blossom. If I have resolved Selene's effect to summon back from grave and it resolves, and it's an open game state, and my opponent does not activate Nibiru, I can make the concession that they don't have that. That is what deductive reasoning in its core is in this game. It's a fibrocalyptic backbone to the game, right? There's one thing about economics, which is using your cards more fervently to get the maximum value and advantage out of it. We'll talk about that in a second. But the main thing is, I say it like this: stop ashing upstarts. That's the other thing. Deductive reasoning is not just about playing your cards in a sequence to beat the hand traps that you know you lose to, but also you can actually take a deep breath and calm down and relax when you use deductive reasoning, right, to read your opponent and understand they don't have it. If they don't have it, stop playing around it, because if you continue playing around it, you're going to end on the board that's not optimized for that matchup, that's not optimized for what you were intending to do in the first place. If I play around Nib, I'm not going to sequence my plays the same way every time. But if I have made the concession they don't have Nib because they should have nibbed me here, because that's Appaloosa and I have Temple up, so why didn't they nib me there? That doesn't make sense. Why would they let me summon Appaloosa when they have Nib? Why would they let me resolve Bonfire if they had Ash, right? The other problem, right, is so that's a problem because players don't understand that. So it's smart and it's wise. It's a prudent practice to sequence your plays to beat hand traps. but it is not prudent to get sucked into the rabbit hole or pigeonholed into the tunnel vision mindset of always playing around it when it's no longer there. That's why deductive reasoning is so imperative. You guys need to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn stuff like this. Even in my gameplay, my gameplay is always going to be methodical because I play in such a technical manner that I'm not just trying to telegraph whether or not my opponent has it, but once I make the concession that they no longer have it, I stop playing around it. And that technique is not punishable because if they had it and didn't use it, that card's value diminishes. So it's not about, oh, they could be holding it. If they're holding it, then that sucks for them. That's a trash mindset. Why would you hold it? Now your Ash doesn't have value anymore. Now your Nib loses its value. Now that Imperm, you need to cut me off engine. We're in a game state, right? In a meta, in a format where follow-up is so abundant that breaking a board is not going to be as effective if you cannot OTK, right? This video is going to be so multifaceted. So anyways, I say that because people do play around hand traps, but then once you can use the process of elimination, deductive reasoning, and say they don't have the hand trap, well, now you need to stop playing around it and you need to optimize your play. You need to make the board that you wanted to make in the first place. So the other thing is people be ashing upstarts. Do I mean that literal? I don't mean people ash blossom upstarts, but this is what I always say to anybody new to the game, anybody I meet, right? This is my mindset, and you don't have to be like me. I'm not like you, you're not like me. We don't gotta be like each other. We really don't. And notice, even in this play, right? I had a DDG and a trap trick. I didn't set them both because I'm playing Labyrinth, right? And why would I commit those cards? They're redundant. I only need one. And if he Lightning Storm or even leaves me, I'm going to lose so much economics, right? Anyways, we'll pause here. We'll pause. So, we're just going to talk about it real quick, right? So, ashing upstarts, what does that mean? You should not use your interruptions on a card if it does not threaten you, right? I've seen Labyrinth players have destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, and their Snake Eye player summons a Fenrir, and then they flip Daruma Cannon on the Fenrir. And I look at them, I say, you don't have a face-up card that can be banished. What are you doing? That Fenrir cannot put your life points from 8,000 to 0. That Fenrir is not going to progress their game state. That is not their primary engine. That is a supplementary engine that cannot, it's not even conducive with the strategy. It's not going to, Fenrir doesn't say search a Snake Eye card. Fenrir says search another Fenrir most of the time. The card actually doesn't apply enough pressure for a card with the yielding value that Daruma Karma Cannon has for you to turn a card that can end a turn into a Book of Moon. A card that impactful to turn it into a 1-for-1. The fact that people even do that blows my mind. That's what I call ashing an upstart. If my opponent is playing, for example, I don't know, let's just say they're playing a deck that has Armageddon Knight in it, right? And they have 10 ways to search Armageddon Knight. Just an example. And they have 2 Armageddon Knights in their deck. And I'm just going to pretend like I'm one of these like juvenile players. I activate effect to search Armageddon Knight. I'm going to chain Ash. Activate other effect to search Armageddon Knight. I'm going to negate that. Activate other effect to search Armageddon Knight. I'm going to negate that. Normal summon Armageddon Knight. Effect. It resolves. Why'd you do that? Why would you hit the engine cards that search the card as opposed to hitting the card that they're going to search? Because if you use your negation or your interruption on that card, what if they had 2 or 3 more cards in their hand that were supplementary, able to access that card in case they were cut off of it? You only get to use that card's effect once per turn, but however, I got 3 Wanted, 3 Diabell Stars, 3 Bonfires, right? But I only have 1 Snake Eye Ash and I only have 1 Oak. And I can only use both of those effects once, right? This is the mentality and approach I have from a competitive perspective to maximize the value of my card economics. I like to 1-for-1 in the most impactful way, and then times when I 1-for-1, I 1-for-3 because I stopped the engine card that they would have searched and cut off the value of their other searchers. All of that diminishes now. If I ash a fossil dig as opposed to ashing an Oviraptor or a Miscellaneousaurus, it's a lot less impactful as opposed to just hitting the card that they were going to search. Especially when your interruption can trade with the card they search. Why would you trade with the searcher instead of the target? That is what I call ashing an upstart. Why would you use your negation on a card that can't kill you? I have seen people use Mirror Jades to banish a U-Bell when there's no Nightmare Pain up and they have Nightmare thrown up. That blows my mind. And then people worship these pro players like they're gods, and they're not. They're just smart. They actually think through their plays and sequencing. When you play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And you draw your 5-card hand, right? Think about what you're going to do before you do it. Don't just like tunnel vision into just like playing cardboard and activating effects and resolve them with no true strategy. This is why playtesting is so imperative. If I go second, right? Let's say 3 stacks is going second and my opponent's playing. I'm not just playing my sequencing, my interruptions to stop them, but I'm also, this is called mental imagery. It's you know what's interesting? People do this in animes. They do mental training. Frieza, when Frieza was locked up in hell, bro, shout out to my boy Frieza, he did mental training. He produces images in his heads of him killing Goku 20,000 times over or whatever, and he got better at it, so when he actually did it in real life, he already knew what to do. I do that in Yu-Gi-Oh! I play my hand out in my head, and I say, I'm going to normal summon Ariana. He's going to chain effect Veiler, but I have still Vitorbi plus Big Welcome, so I'm going to chain that, bounce it. And if he has another Imperm or Veiler, I'm at least going to set my Big Welcome, and then I'm going to activate Coup Clock on Resolution, summon Lovely, and then try and dismantle the last interruption. If he has an interruption for Lovely, that's fine. I'm going to link in the Yama, and I'm going to clean the board up by going Anguish into the Rage and have follow-up. And I'm doing that on my opponent's turn, so that when it's my time to play, I already know what I'm doing. That's gonna save time, right? So that you're not wasting time, because time exists and in-the-match procedures exist, so you need to maximize your resources, maximize your card economics, maximize your time. So you should, why would you not? And that can prevent you from falling into the mindset of ashing upstarts. If you say, that card resolving is not going to mean my board gets broken, then let it resolve. Because did you guys know, this is just a fun fact, the longer you hold your negates, the more impactful they can be, because every time your opponent uses a card that you didn't negate, there's less cards that you have to negate, because the card that they're holding is the card that can actually break your board. It's so easy to just, once you understand that mindset, like once you understand like this is how matchups are navigated. I also say this to a lot of my friends. So do you know that there's a difference between playing Ash Blossom, playing around Ash, and playing around Droll and Lockbird? So if you play around Ash Blossom, you're holding the card that you don't want to get ashed for last, and you're using baits. This is what's called getting baited, boy. It's like, I activate Fossil Dig, you Ash Blossom. Normal Oviraptor, you got baited, boy. You shouldn't have ashed the Upstart. However, right, if I held my Ash for the card that was part of the engine that I knew he was going to search anyways, and let that Fossil Dig resolve, just for example, or that reinforcement is all, if he has another card that could search Oviraptor specifically, that's entailed, that card specifically is meant to grab this card, it diminishes in value, which means my next negate yields more value, because there's less cards that he can even use against it to bait it. And once you've ran out of bait, now I'm negating the card that you didn't want me to negate, which means you cannot break my board, because the card you held for last was the card that you didn't want to get ashed, right? That's the mindset, right? It's a funny parable that I tell to a lot of people that are playing the game. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For so long. I'm not the best player in the world, but I am not trash, bro. I'm nice. I'm nice because I take the time to not just practice, not just play test, but because this is mental warfare. And I practice telegraphing, reading body language, and this mindset that I'm teaching you guys is what has gotten me so far in this game. So that's like playing around Ash. When you play around Ash, it's the equivalent of playing into your opponent's board, because you play into a lot of boards and matchups as if you're playing around Ash. So the idea is a lot of the first cards that you activate are cards that you mean to bait out the interruption so that you can clean the board up with the cards that you have that have an impactful enough effect to actually break the board. Now, don't get me wrong, there's reverse psychology that even I use. Well, I'll use my best card first with the means that my opponent might not interrupt or interact with it just because I have 5 other cards in hand and they're like, he could be baiting me. So it's so many nuances that, again, it's a fiber prolific backbone of the game. So it's like playing around Ash. So now the opposite approach is when you play around Droll. That means you use your best card first because you might get Drolled. That is where reverse psychology comes into place. If I play around Ash, it's the same thing. I want my best card to resolve, so I need to bait Ash out. If I have a Lone Fire Blossom and an emergency teleport, but my Lone Fire Blossom is what I want to resolve, I'm going to activate emergency teleport first and try and bait the Ash out. But if I have a terraforming, right, and a primeval planet, for example, or I have a Sangan field spell, or I have a, you know what I mean? Let's just say I have a Nightmare Throne and a Terraforming, or I have a Nightmare Throne and a Beckoning Beast. Well, if I'm playing around if I'm playing around Droll, I'm going to activate the search that matters the most to me first. That is a reverse psychology that you can use playing into boards that can get your opponent really tripped up, and you can bait them in the opposite way, where you're playing a good card first. It makes them feel like, dang, he must have really good cards. If this is what he's using first, then I need to hold my interruptions. Vice versa. So this is why I say stop ashing upstarts, bro. Stop doing that, right? Use deductive reasoning to, again, this is just a process of elimination. If he doesn't have this, if he had it, he would have used it. And you don't like to put people on, he better have it. You want to play as if he does have it and use deductive reasoning to then come to the conclusion that he doesn't have it after you've played around it. Which implies now, if he's a goofball and he has it and he's holding it, it lost all the value that it could have had. You need to stop the most impactful cards, okay? This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Psychology 101. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, again, approaching a matchup. If it cannot break your board, you shouldn't interact with it. I've seen so many people trade their interruptions on cards that just can't break their board. If I'm playing my branded deck, and my opponent summons a monster, and I know I have a bunch of monsters with 3,000 attack, I don't want to get Typhon. I'm just going to have to clear the body so that he can't summon Typhon on me and cut all my interruptions off. Because if he's playing Labyrinth and he summons Typhon, he can break my whole board. Because I can't. He cuts off all my interaction. So it depends on what your deck is, but yes, you should always play around what actually can break your board. Now, here's another thing. Because follow-up is so abundant in this format that you need to sequence your plays to not just break a board, but OTK. Here's another problem that I see a lot of goofball Yu-Gi-Oh! Players doing. They go second, and they play as if they're making their board their first turn in board, bro. Why are you making your first turn inboard when you're going second and you need to kill them? I don't care if you're setting up Appaloosa. I don't care if you have hand traps and you want to trade with their follow-up. This is Ivan's approach. I'm 3 stacks. I would rather systematically pick the board apart, clear the follow-up. This is what I call cleaning up the board. I'm going to clean the board up by clearing the follow-up. Once I have cleared the follow-up, i.e., the follow-up's gone. So guess what? Once you've cleared the follow-up, it doesn't matter if you have negates or not. If the whole precedent, like the whole principle behind you making a board is to stop your opponent from playing on the next turn, you can SP Little Knight, clear their resources from grave. You can systematically take their follow-up, rip their board apart. If I'm playing Labyrinth and I summon Ariana against Snake Eye and they haven't resolved their Flamberge to summon IP, I'm gonna slap Typhon on immediately. So that the Flamberge can no longer summon IP and I don't have to deal with that. And I'm going to bounce the Flamberge to hand. Why? Because I'm going to cut the follow-up. You can say 3 stacks, why would you summon Typhon? Now you can't special summon for the rest of the turn. I'm not playing as if I'm making my turn 1 board. When I go second, my idea is to take the follow-up away because now it doesn't matter as much of what my inboard looks like. Now I need critical mass. What I need to do is establish enough follow-up to kill them. This is the... I also use another parable, right? I'm going all around the world today. Let me see how good I'm doing. So I also use this mindset, this mentality, in another way. It's really, really cool. It's the Triple Tactics Talents 3-stack special. This is the 3-stack special. I'm lacing y'all up today. Did you know when I have talents and I'm going first and my hand trap opponents, my opponent hand traps me, that when I use talents, 10 times out of 10, 20 times out of 20, if I see a Tempai starter and 3 other hand traps, I'm going to take the Tempai starter. Did you guys understand that when you make a board, if the idea is for you to keep your opponent from playing, why would you use talents to rip their hand trap so that you can keep playing, to make a board to prevent them from playing, when you could just talents, rip their engine, and now you can end on no board at all, and all they have is hand traps. You can't win the duel with hand traps, right? It just blows my mind. You guys need to stop doing this. I'm probably going to title this video, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players need to stop doing this, bro. You got to stop. Like, it's the same thing that I'm talking about when you're going second and you're picking a board apart, and instead of OTKing or taking their follow-up away, you just summon Appaloosa and summon a Phantom of Yubel and set up all these interruptions and say, we're going to play take turns breaking our board. I want to kill you, bro. Like, I don't have time to waste. I got 45 minutes. I spent 10 minutes watching you play. I'm going to spend 2 minutes cleaning it up. I got stuff to do. I got somewhere I need to be. I don't want to sit here and play break a board workshop all day with you, bro. So it's crazy that people have the resources to OTK and choose to instead make a board. That's called reckless overextending. That's called flexing. It's like people do stupid stuff for no reason. They don't even have to do that. Like, you ain't got no business doing that. That's crazy to me. So that's the other thing, is like, if you have the resources to go for game, go for game. Stop doing stuff just because you can. Stop overextending just because you can. Oh, I could summon every fusion in my extra deck right now. I'm going to do it. You act like you're in an anime, bro. This is real life. Chill, dog. Like, if you here to have fun, all right, that's fine. Summon every card from your extra deck. Don't kill them. Loosen them, but don't cry about it later. Don't come to me talking about Snake Eyes need to be hit because you just threw the game when you could have won it. Snake Eye don't need to be hit. You need to check your mindset, bro. Like, what are you talking about right now? That stuff blows my mind, bro. It's actually so cringe. It's so cringe to me. It's literally so freaking cringe. It doesn't make any sense how people have the resources to do the right thing and they don't do the right thing. Stop ashing upstarts when you go second. Like, it's almost like, do you know that some people, that's why I say tunnel vision, they go second, right? And they start playing and they forget their opponent even exists because they're playing as if they're going first, and people play solitaire. Do you know that I have had opponents that literally start playing and like they activate a card and like start resolving it? I'm like, I have a response. And then like look up and see my field and they're like, oh, yeah, bro, this is still Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, that just blows my mind. It doesn't make any sense. Like, so if you can take your opponent's follow-up away, did you know that that's a lot of the times better than making your own board? Because the two do the same thing. If your intentions are to negate the cards your opponent activates on the crackback so that they can't play and you can win on your following turn, taking away their follow-up, like what I just explained when I slapped Typhon on top of my Ariana, right? So that Flamberge cannot summon Masquerena. It's not just because SP Little Knight can banish my back rows to take resources from me. It's also because IP Masquerena link summoning with Flamberge gives them follow-up. They summon back 3 bodies, get a search off of the Poplar, get a search off of the Snake Eye Ash, and they have Flamberge back. If you slap Typhon on immediately, like I've done to Snake Eye players, which is so funny, bounce their Flamberge, no follow-up from Flamberge, no IP Masquerena interaction, right? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And like a lot of times that's impactful when they've already used the field spell effect to summon. And they'll like summon whatever. Like they summon the little Snake Idea Bellstar. But the main point is take away their follow-up. Even if they still have another way to access IP Masquerena, that I don't care about that. You know what I do care about? I just care about them having follow-up. Right? And that's the thing. Why are you making a pretty looking board to negate the cards that they like would use against you when you could take their follow-up? Like, it's interesting to me. Like, if I could Bistio banish their resource, or I can Bistio banish my Mercarier and get a search off my Mercarier because I'm greedy, why? Like, if the equivalent of making a board is to stop your opponent from playing, is not taking their follow-up the same thing? Their follow-up is what allows them to play on the next turn. If you take their follow-up, they can't play, which means I don't need to actually negate anything. If my opponent bricks, I don't have to draw a single hand trap. They can't play because they have no engine. They have no advantage. They have no resources. They can't actually do anything. If they don't have follow-up, it's the equivalent of bricking. They don't have a play. So what's the point of having a negate for a play that doesn't exist? I don't need Appaloosa if you're not going to activate monster effects because you don't have anything good. Change your mindset, bro. I'm going to probably make another segment of this video, but to be honest, that's the gist of it, bro. Stop ashing upstarts. Stop throwing your interruptions on cards that don't threaten you. Take time to sequence your plays through in your head. Do a mental simulation. Do what you got to do. Play the imagery in your head out. Play out your hand before you do it. When people say, activate twin twisters, thinking what I'm going to discard, I get so disappointed in this cringe because I'm like, you should have thought about what you were going to discard before you did that. Activate droplets, thinking on what I'm going to send. You should have thought through what you were going to send because if you played it out right, you knew 10 times out of 10 when you were going to droplet. The only thing that can change change how you dictate when you play it is when your opponent doesn't do what you anticipate them to do. But if you can telegraph their plays, especially because most Yu-Gi-Oh players, I'm not going to lie, all play the same anyways. So they're really obvious. They're very even pro players, if you're good enough, you already know. When you know what the optimal play is, you expect them to make the optimal play. So that means you know when and where to interact with them. When they don't make the optimal play, that's not your fault, but that also means it's going to be easier for you to clean the board up anyways. But when you know what the most optimal line is, that means you don't need to ask them what they're going to do. You know what they're going to do. You know what the best play is, and that's what you're holding your interaction for. That's why you're not activating droplets saying, thinking on what I'm going to send, because you knew what they were going to do. You telegraphed their line and you said, I'm going to droplet send this. That A saves time, so you can stop going to intermatch procedures and crying about, oh, we need to change the time rules. Oh, they need to ban this card. Half of the Yu-Gi-Oh players, more than half the Yu-Gi-Oh players that complaining about a ban list suck at the game. I'm just saying that right now. At least half of them suck at the game. It doesn't matter. They just don't like good cards existing. Good decks can't exist because the player's not good enough. It doesn't make sense to me. At least half of them, I promise you. People lose to themselves more than they lose to other people. A lot of the times in Yu-Gi-Oh, you really do, you defeat yourself. I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to just stop right there, bro. I got so much nuggets and jewels of wisdom that I could drop, but the video's long enough. I think you guys get the gist of it. God bless you guys. Y'all have a beautiful day. Make better choices in the game. Have fun. Play what you like. Play it to have fun. It is a game. A lot of the times, if you enjoy your deck, your performance is going to reflect on that, all right? I'm an idiot savant. I don't always take my advice, but I do the best I can. Peace.